Welcome to Whiskey's the Journey. My name's Peter Fasciano. Today's video, I'm going to be doing another top 5 beginner whiskey video for you guys. And this is actually coming out on St. Patrick's Day. So I thought it would be fitting to actually do a top 5 beginner Irish whiskey. So just like all of my other top 5 videos, there's going to be a little bit of a theme here. This is going to take place over the course of a night. I am going to come up with a flight of 5 individual whiskeys that I think are going to represent the landscape of Irish whiskey. At the end of the flight, I'm going to throw in a special bottle just to kind of show people what Irish whiskey also has to offer other than the basics for the beginner. And before we get this going, there are 4 types of Irish whiskey. We end up having 100% malted barley, so we have the single malt Irish whiskeys. We have a single grain, and then we also have the single pot still, which is a combination of unmalted and malted barley. And the 4th type is going to be your blended. That's going to be a combination of any of the top 3, the single malt, the single pot still, or the single grain. In my flight, I just want to let you guys know right up front, I'm only going to be covering the single pot still and the single malt. So when I put this flight together, there is going to be a certain criteria that I have to meet. First of all of these Irish whiskeys need to come from my own collection. They all have to be readily available, nothing allocated here. These should be on the shelf no matter where you guys go. And I understand availability might be different in everybody's area. I just need to go by what I have available to me in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to keep the ABV at 46% or less. And I understand Irish whiskey is expensive and it's getting more and more expensive every month. So I'm going to keep these bottles to the best of my ability under $70. And my last point before I get going, this is going to be a flight over the course of a night, and this is going to be St. Patrick's Day, so this is a huge party. There's not going to be a ton of talking points for these whiskeys. It's simply just me introducing these whiskeys to the people that are at the party, give them the basics, and then let's just have a good time during St. Patty's Day. So here we go. Bottle number 1. This is a standard on my shelf. This is Green Spot. Green Spot is a single pot still, triple distilled Irish whiskey. This is bottled by Middleton for Mitchells & Son. 40% ABV. This is matured. Got to get this right. This is going to be matured in bourbon and sherry casks, and it's coming in around $47 in Phoenix. When people say classic Irish, they're thinking of a buttery biscuit or a buttery cookie. This one, on the other hand, the dominant note here is green apple, big time, and it's sweet. Being matured in bourbon and sherry casks, you're going to get those vanillas and the honey and the caramel. Maybe if you stretch the palate a little bit, or if you're really, really good at it, you might end up picking up a little bit of toasted oak, but the dominant flavor here is going to be mostly that green apple, like a Jolly Rancher green apple. The ABV makes it very, very good to sip on. It's a good overall, well-balanced, good tasting Irish single pot still whiskey. Moving right along, whiskey number 2 is another single pot still whiskey, and this one is going to be another staple on my shelf. We're looking at Redbreast 12. This is single pot still, triple distilled, just like the other one. This is distilled again by Middleton, 40% ABV, and this is also matured in oak casks, bourbon, and first fill sherry, and this is coming in at about $50. On the nose, you're going to get those classic Irish notes. To me, this one has a little bit more of the sherry notes coming through rather than the green apple. 40% ABV, really easy going down. Good, well-rounded flavors in here. Can't go wrong. And with me, looking at the Irish whiskeys, I don't think that the variety of tastes that you're getting in Irish whiskeys are as extensive as Scotch and bourbon. The flavor profiles seem to be very narrow. So everything that I have here is pretty much going to be condensed into a pretty narrow profile. And if you like that profile, you're going to like Irish whiskeys. Take that for what it is. Moving on to number 3. This one is going to be my last single pot still Irish whiskey. We're looking at Powers 12-year. This is Powers Johns Lane 12-year-old. This is a single pot still, triple distilled as well. This is also our first one that is non-chill filtered. This is 46% ABV. Let's go ahead and try to put this over here. This is also matured in bourbon and Oloroso sherry casks. $65.99. And this one definitely does have a different note than these two. This one has a punch to it, more along the lines of honey and vanilla, like sharp honey and vanilla. The Oloroso sherry cask is coming through just a little bit. You get a good amount of oak, good amount of that bourbon barrel coming through with the honey and the vanillas. And on the very tail end, you're getting a small amount of that sherry cask influence. All right, those were my 3 single pot stills. Now let's go ahead and move on to our single malts. And what separates the single malts from the single pot stills will be the malted and unmalted barley. These are combinations of malted and unmalted barley. The single malts are all 100% malted barley. First up, single malt, Tullamore Dew 14. Tullamore Dew 14, triple distilled also. This is owned by William Grant & Sons. It's produced in the Tullamore Dew distillery about an hour and a half outside of Dublin. And this is matured in oak casks, but finished in 4 different casks. They're finished in Old Bourbon, Oloroso Sherry, Port, and Madeira. You definitely get a malt note in here, different than you have here. The notes on here are pretty crispy. These are a little bit more rounded, and I think that's due to the 100% malted barley. On the nose, again, that flavor profile, that nosing profile is pretty much the same. On the palate, vanilla, honey, caramel, the sherry's coming through, and then you do get that hint of Madeira as well. Very good tasting. I get more of a tannin bitterness in here. Maybe it's because of the 4 finished barrels that they're using. And this is coming in at around $70. The ABV on all of these are very tolerable, so I don't think any beginner drinker is going to have an issue with the ABV. And the longer this sits, the more I'm actually getting some of the port notes in there as well. So this is actually pretty good. It's a good transition into what I think is probably going to be the strongest or most bold flavor of any of these whiskeys, which is going to be the Teeling single malt. Teeling single malt is the first and only one that is not triple distilled. This is natural color. This is also non-chill filtered. It's distilled by Teeling, and Teeling's got a really wild history. I'm not going to get into the history of this. I have done a video on this in the past, so if you want to go back and look at that, you can. The Teeling distillery is in Dublin, and it is rumored or said to be at least 23-year-old whiskeys in this blend of single malt. They have a variety of casks that are actually going into this. Looking at my notes, we have sherry, port, Madeira, white Burgundy, and Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, there is not 23-year-old whiskey in here alone. There is much younger stock in here, but the way that age statements work, you have to, if you do have a age statement on the bottle, which this one does not, it has to include the youngest age of the whiskey that's in here. On the nose, this is the most vibrant. This is the most punchy one. This one has all of those different notes that are coming through. We've got that classic sweetness. We have that good amount of wine influence. Some of the barrel influences in here as well, so you're getting some oakiness. And on the palate, coming in at 46% ABV, this one seems to be drinking a little bit hotter, which is good, but it's not lighting your mouth up. $64.99 where I'm at. Obviously, again, your mileage might be different depending upon where you're at, but overall, a very well-rounded, easy sipper, just like they all are. Now, moving these things over just a little bit, I want to make room for my 6th and final. Again, just like all of the other videos, you don't want to end the night and say, there you go. You want to introduce something a little bit special. My special bottle is still considered to be a beginner bottle based on the ABV alone. This is still coming in at 40% ABV. It's a single malt, but it's 16 years old. And my finishing Irish whiskey is going to be Bushmills 16. Single malt, triple distilled, 40% ABV. This is aged in Oloroso and bourbon casks, and then it's finished in port pipes. On the nose, all of those port pipes and sherry cask influence is definitely coming through. It's light on the nose, light on the palate. You get a lot of light fruit along with the sherry influence that's bringing out some of the raisins, the figs, and the dates. And the Bushmill claim to fame is that they're the oldest distillery, the oldest licensed whiskey distillery, dating back to 1608. And if I haven't mentioned it, $124 where I'm at. And finishing off the night, I think all 6 of these does a good job of representing what Irish whiskey is all about. In the comments down below, let me know what you guys think of this list. If you were going to put together a flight of 5 plus an extra bottle at the end to top off the night, what would your list be? Does it look like mine? Is it completely different? Everybody's taste is a little bit different. Everybody has a different idea of what a beginner Irish whiskey would be. Let me know what yours is in the comments. And with all that, I hope you guys have a great St. Patrick's Day. If you guys are watching this after St. Patrick's Day, I hope you had a good St. Patrick's Day and you're looking forward to the next one. And just like all of my other beginning whiskey videos, this is going to be part 1 of a 3-part series. If you're new to the channel and you're not subscribed and you like this information, consider subscribing. Give me a like, share this with somebody in the whiskey world. And I guess with all of that being said, enjoy your journey and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.